Figured I'd check out the points here, and they're totally rusted. Like probably the worst points I've ever seen. I took the points out of the other engine. They're usable, not perfect, but usable. We're just going to clean them up a little bit, and we'll throw them in here and see if we can get some spark. So we got some spark now. I took the spark plugs out, and I'm going to crank this thing over and let it blow all the oil I put in the cylinders out. If you remember, I poured some oil in there, and I've cranked it quite a bit of times. So by this point, I just pulled the plugs, and they're covered with oil. So let's see what we got here. It's going to spray everywhere probably. Okay, cool. So let's give it a little carb cleaner and put the plugs back in. Cool. Plugs are covered with oil, so I'm going to blow them off with the compressor for a moment. Plugs in, and I gave it a shot of carb cleaner. Let's see what happens. Give a little more juice here.
You can get juice.
Yeah, let's see.
That was a lot of steam.
Yeah, it's full of oil. It's going to burn all that oil off. Sounds good, huh?
Yeah.
Probably got to clean the carb. Well, I think we got to clean the carburetor. All right, we're going to take the bowl off this carburetor here. I already see green junk coming out. So I have a feeling that it's going to be awesome in there. Oh, it's not too bad. I figured it would be a lot worse than that. I have a feeling it was empty the whole time it was sitting around, but you can see right in the bottom here, there's a bunch of junk in there. So let's see if we can't clean this thing out a little bit and throw it back together. All right, so we got the carb all cleaned out here, and it actually wasn't really that bad, but we're gonna put it back together here, and I gotta look up the factory settings for a twin carb. I don't remember them, and see what we can do. All right, before we put the carb back in, I'm going to replace this piece of fuel line that goes underneath the carb here. That thing is hard as a rock, and pretty much I replaced all the line except for this little piece right here that goes to the filter, so it should be good. topped off the hydro fluid. Good stuff. All right, so I just got back from a little trip to Napa, and I got a fuse holder here. I got some 15 amp fuses. The little glass round fuse holder that's back there does not work right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder this one in, and we'll use this nice one that's heavy duty. We'll put one of these more modern style fuses in there. I'm also not a big fan of this wire coming off of the battery post. I'd rather it come off the solenoid. So if I have the proper terminal, I'm going to make one that goes onto the solenoid and comes up instead of going off the battery. So let me see if I got one of that. And I got some more fuel line at Napa so I can properly route the fuel line back here. It's supposed to come up here and through this little thing. The filter should be more like back here. So I need a longer piece to come up from the engine to the filter. And eventually I'd like to put a shut-off valve down there too, but one thing at a time. All right, so I did have the proper terminal, so I'm going to crimp that on there, and then I'm going to solder it on also, and we'll make this thing really nice with the wires here. All right, so we got that soldered up good, nice and strong. So we're going to route it from the solenoid down here up under the dash, and it goes to the ammeter up here. So we're actually going to just make a whole new wire to go right to the ammeter instead of splicing into this little 4-inch piece and then splice it into the fuse. The less connections, the better off we are. Is I slipped the wire right through the boot that goes on the solenoid. So we'll put that on and we should be nice and secure here and covered too. All right, so I got the fuse in. I got the fuel line properly routed back here, and I got a new fuel filter in there. And I forgot to mention this, but it wouldn't run before on the carb because the fuel filter was clogged solid. So I put a new one in, and after cleaning the carb, it was running pretty good. Let's see if it will fire up here. Fan of how this cable goes out here where the sheathing ends over here, but it's working, so we can adjust that at another time. So I think what I want to do now is get the seat pan on this thing and the air cleaner, and we'll put some air in these tires and see if we can drive it around. They only hold air for about 10 minutes before they leak, so we're going to put those tires back on this one. And I don't know if I ever actually showed this, but the main reason that this one over here was junked is that the front of the transmission down here where I'm pointing is cracked off. The case is cracked off, so it's no good. So that's why this thing was parked. Anyways, that's it. Well, we got one broken bolt here in the top of the head here where the shield or blower housing shields go on there. So I drilled it out. Now I got to tap it here with a 1/4-20, and we'll put it back together. And then we're ready to put the seat pan on and try to drive this bad boy. Oh, by the way, this wire over here that was just flapping in the breeze, turns out that there's supposed to be a safety for the seat there, and that's like underneath here, and that's missing, so that's why that was cut. All right, our next step here is we're taking these good turf tires off of the old tractor and putting them on the new one here. But check out these ag tires, man. These things are so dry rotted. It's really a shame because they're beautiful looking tires, but look at how crappy these things are. Ay, ay, ay. Look over here. Look at that big divot. It's really nuts. So they're junk, unfortunately. Just junk. All right, we got the hitch on it here. Let's address some other problems. The weld is broken up here where the seat pan mounts. You see that? We're gonna have to re-weld that. And then I notice over here that there's a screw in the back tire right there. I'm just gonna leave it because it's not leaking air. So we're gonna have to grind this weld off here to get this angle iron off. I looked at Tractor Supply to see if they had any 1.5-inch angle iron, and they didn't. They had a 3-foot long piece of some really heavy stuff, and it was like $30. And I'm like, nah, we'll grind this thing off somehow. So it looks like they got a weld around the edge here. So I guess I'll just start grinding that and see if we can get it off. And I measured the distance between, it's 11.25 inches. So I'll know that to put it back in the new tractor. So let's give it a shot. I think I ground off the welds. Now I'm going to take a big hammer and see if, yeah, there we go. Just hammer it off. There we go, perfect. So now we just got to install it on the other tractor and we should be good. All right, we got the thing back together. The gas tank's not in there yet, but I put a couple bolts on the hood so the hood police don't get me and we can try to drive it around. We're going to switch this headlight lens out too. This one's good. And that one's cracked. The headlights actually work in this thing, which is hard to believe, but all right, let's see if we can start it up today. It was running yesterday, so it's been about 24 hours. So we'll put the choke on, give it a little bit of throttle, and let's see what happens. Working good. Let's give it some gas. Second gear. Speed it up a little bit. Third gear. There we go. The fourth gear. Thing moves, man. Thing's awesome. Yeah, it's working real good. Yep. Brakes work. Yeah, they even work. It needs a little adjustment on the carb, but it is working really good. PTO works, everything. Sweet. It's cruising. Let's give that KT some throttle. There we go. I think we're ready to park in the line up here with all the other tractors. Over here next to its little brother, the 8162T, and the 18G, its big brother. Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm happy with it, very happy. Tell you guys, the thing really looks awesome sitting there, that long frame tractor. It's only 3 inches longer, but it looks like it's a foot longer. It's so cool. So anyways, I really hope that we can get that 60-inch mower deck on that thing soon. That's going to be our next project. But for now, it's working, it's driving, and maybe tomorrow or the next day we can make those welding repairs, but kind of out of time tonight, unfortunately.